Okay, so you want to learn how to play Joseph. So I will teach you how to play Joseph. Now keep in mind, this is a tutorial for my Pookie, and it's meant for my Pookie. So if you don't like how I play him, feel free to scroll past. This was specifically requested by her. So, yeah. This is not like a tutorial on the right way to play him, nor is it a tutorial on the wrong way to play him. This is how I play him. Keyword I play him. So, if you got a problem, shove it. Let's start with Joseph's build. So, with his build, I use an up-down build, meaning no trump card, no wanted order with him. Mainly because I just want to be speedy in my gameplay. It really comes down to preferences. If you want to be an aggressive hunter, then I usually go up down. But if you want to like draw the game out as long as possible, I'd say like go wanted order, like trump card, like pull out all the stops, okay? For me, I want to be snappy. I want to be quick because Joseph is already slow. No survivors. I'll bring no survivors for Joseph. While within 25 meters of a knockdown survivor, each free moving survivor will increase the hunter's attack recovery speed by 8%, stacking up to 3 times. Or if there's more than one survivor in an area, then I will know that there are other survivors around, like close by. That'll definitely help you in trying to look for survivors in camera world sometimes, because sometimes it's hard to see them, so you'll at least know that there are multiple in one spot in your camera world. Joseph also really relies heavy on his early game. If you do not have presence in your early game, it'll be a bit more difficult for your mid to end game, because he really relies on that sort of thing. I just realized I have not been recording gameplay. When it comes to your spawns, you want to understand where each survivor is going to spawn depending on where you spawn. So if you aren't really sure where a survivor is going to spawn, I personally have a problem, and I've memorized survivor spawns depending on where I spawn. So for example, when you spawn in a certain area, survivors tend to spawn diagonal from where you are, so usually not straight on. In some occasions they do spawn like immediately in front of you, but I count this as diagonal. Boom, survivor found the perfumer immediately. Like I spawned back there, the back cipher. There will be survivors at shack. There will always be survivors at shack. Boom, survivor. And if I kept going, there's a survivor. Boom. Tonight is in this area. Not really too sure where they are. Probably in the middle here, somewhere. But yep, boom. Doctor, found her. So when it comes to trying to understand survivor spawns, you want to also think like a survivor when you're playing Joseph. And when I say that, I mean, if I were a survivor and I knew the hunter was Joseph immediately, I'm going to start hiding. Or I'm going to try and find a place to crouch. So realistically, in a real game, survivors usually don't tend to just stand there unless they are ballsy enough and think the Joseph won't find me, and they'll just stand there. They'll just kind of let you get a free hit for whatever reason. So right now, let's slow down. Let's rewind and think about what we just talked about. Survivor spawns. They usually spawn diagonal from your spawn as a hunter. Sometimes they'll be in front of you and sometimes they won't. you want to at least get some form of presence inside of the camera world. It's not necessarily required, but the sooner you get your presence, the more smoothly your gameplay will be. His first presence allows him to enter camera world whenever he wants to. So I can be in chase with somebody and use my camera ability or my card ability mid-chase and roam around the map undetected. So I could get like the jump onto, like, say someone's decoding here in the middle. Boom, jump scare. Pow, dead. Right? Sometimes unsuspecting survivors will kind of just decode freely. But they usually do try to hide within camera world because he's not gonna really expect survivors to be idly decoding within camera world a majority of the time if the Joseph isn't very good. I want to touch upon Joseph's damage and like how it's different from other hunters. So when dealing with survivors, you need to understand that there are multiple survivors that do counter Joseph's attacks. If the survivors are good, they can understand, like, okay, this is how I know to heal around a Joseph. But considering if you're low tier and under, they usually don't really pay attention to their damage, like, at all. The survivors that can counter Joseph very well in terms of healing is usually doctor, psychologist, barmaid, perfumer. I'm pretty sure I think that's about it. I think those are the survivors that can counter Joseph's damage, because he doesn't do half damage, okay? Joseph's damage is technically, like, if you look up at Doctor's icon, her damage isn't half. Like, she's not at half damage. If she were to heal herself right now, it'd leave a bit of damage on her icon, meaning she has chip damage. So if she were to heal herself, she wouldn't heal herself completely until all of the yellow is gone. Just know that if you deal damage to a survivor in the real world, not in, well, either or, in either world, he will deal chip damage. So if a survivor were to come up and heal Perfumer, she wouldn't be healed completely. She would still have chip damage unless the survivors understand I need to heal her in both the camera world and the actual world. When it comes to chasing survivors, I definitely say make sure you understand that you are a one-hit hunter, and you will have to do a bit of mind games when it comes to chasing survivors. As I said, think like a survivor when you're playing Joseph. If you were playing against a Joseph, what would you do? How would you play around a Joseph chasing you for a long period of time? When it comes to aggressive Joseph players, they usually will tend to harass ciphers when they can. So going in and out of camera world and like disorienting you on where he's going to go tends to be a perfect way to play. Because when he unlocks his third ability, which is his card trick, he can essentially teleport back and forth freely. As long as he takes 15 steps away from where he originally had been, he can always just keep teleporting back and harass ciphers wherever he wants to. This also includes when he's using the ability teleport. If he teleports away from a cipher and uses card trick like immediately afterward, he can keep teleporting back and forth between a cipher and a chair, or two doors at the end of the game, like the end game, right? He can basically hold survivors in one place if he so pleases, or if he knows how to play aggressively like that. Sometimes being aggressive with Joseph doesn't always work. You always want to try and make sure you have some sort of plan in mind when you're playing Joseph, because if you just start going crazy trying to be aggressive and like not really take your time, that could result in either a tie or a loss if you're not careful. So no pun intended, play your cards pretty carefully when you're playing Joseph, because it can cost you your win. Playing and taking your time also doesn't hurt. He's kind of sort of similar in Alva in the way where sometimes playing the slow game can get you to your win. Sure, it's agonizing, but the longer it takes your survivors to get these ciphers finished, it plays in your favor really well. So just make sure that you have some kind of plan, and also just try and keep a cool head, because once you start to panic and you start to worry about cipher rush, you will start to fumble your game. When it comes to any kind of harassment, don't try and chase people that will just take up your time, because you're not Geisha, you're not Mary, you're not Naiad, you're not going to be able to catch up or like get rid of a harasser like they can. If you feel like chasing a survivor is going to take too long, like a prospector or a batter or an antiquarian, a perfumer, sometimes even a barmaid because of her speed boost, just change target. Change target and use your cameras as much as possible. When I say use your cameras as much as possible, I mean it. I even mean break chase if you have to. Use your cameras as much as you can, because these cameras will be your saving grace in the time of when it comes to priming a cipher or having a survivor on the chair. Your camera world is basically where you want to be a lot of the time when you're able to. It's good for juking survivors, it's good for faking out a survivor. I've faked out multiple survivors in terms of being mid-chase, going inside of camera world, and they have no idea where I'm about to come from. So they could be like trying to juke me out, but I already know I can pretty much predict where they're about to go and stop them in their tracks. Joseph is a very good hunter in terms of stealth if you understand how he works. It's all about keeping a cool head, understanding and learning a survivor's playstyle, because that will definitely help. And by learning a survivor's playstyle, I mean, does the survivor jump windows a lot? Block off the window. Does the survivor love trying to bait you with pallets? Try mind gaming with your card trick. Get the jump on them with your card trick. This takes a lot of patience and practice, but once you start to understand how he works and like the things that he can do with his abilities, he becomes a lot easier. His gameplay becomes a lot smoother when you start to understand how a survivor is going to try and play around you, or how they try to counter you as a hunter. I always try and watch a survivor from afar, especially if they're kiting me as a Joseph, because you'll see many mistakes once you understand Joseph's playstyle and how he's supposed to be played. Does a survivor love to try and bait you into running into the camera world often? Just ignore them. As that the more time you waste gives the survivors more of a chance to finish their ciphers. So try not to waste too much time. Okay, I got a few matches to show here. So we're gonna start with this match from Ever Sleeping, and I'm going to analyze and explain the things that I do and why I do them. So, as I said, we're gonna start with using the camera immediately. I go and I use the camera here, and as you can see, there's a survivor already ducking to hide. Think like a survivor. Everyone's going to duck and hide once they realize, oh, it's a Joseph. So I think like a survivor, and I know someone's going to be hiding right here. I know someone's supposed to spawn here, so I check, and I find my first Victim. I know somebody's supposed to be here, but I can't find them, so I end up leaving Camera World, and lo and behold, I find everybody else instead. I chase after Painter, and I lunge attack. This is my second presence. My first presence, sorry. And I know he's gonna try and go for this pallet, and he was not expecting me to be there, so he was caught off guard. Mind you, to point out, I had only hit First Officer once. I purposely didn't hit him twice because if I hit him twice, it would count as him going to half health. So keeping him at chip damage means the next time I hit him, he will go down. And you're probably wondering, well, if he's half health, why don't you just keep him at half health? Is because that means the other survivors can freely heal him, and I did not want that, so I purposely kept him that way. I sadly don't down First Officer here, but I at least got Painter. I used my camera again because I'm trying to slow down decoding. 2 survivors are no longer decoding, so that means 2 other survivors. There's only gonna be 2 ciphers, either half or about near, you know, almost done. But I'm not worried about ciphers right now. I'm in a pretty good place. This is Painter's second chair. Sadly, I do have to chair him 3 times unless somebody saves him. Or someone doesn't save him, sorry. I know that Professor just used his scales, so he cannot stun me here. And Painter wasn't struggling for a moment, so I used him as a weapon. Scared Professor away. He will be my next target. He didn't get very far, so I don't mind initiating this chase. 2 survivors on 1 cipher, meaning they will not have a prime. So I was not at all afraid about this. I just confidently chased after the Professor. I'm pretty sure my blink is ready by now. Once again, there's no prime, so I switched to teleport. The survivors are not in a very good spot considering 2 of them are decoding together. I messed up my my card trick here. I was supposed to card trick back. I don't know why he didn't save there. He probably should have, but as I said, I kept him at chip damage, and that was exactly why. Do not be afraid to use survivors as a weapon. If they are close enough to the chair, this could become a beautiful turnaround for you as a hunter. Only do it if there is a survivor coming in and they're close enough to the chair, or else you're just risking the survivors struggling out. Usually it's not a big deal if they do struggle, but if you're fighting against 1 cipher, you should probably just be more mindful of your resources and what you can afford to do and what you can't afford to do. There's a difference between doing something efficiently and just being greedy. So if you feel like you can risk picking up a survivor and carrying them around and using them for a free hit on a survivor trying to save, go for it. Absolutely go for it. But don't get greedy, because once you start getting greedy, it can definitely turn around the game for you. Another good tip is to start to memorize your camera spawns, because once you start to memorize your camera spawns, it'll help. So first thing first, I already saw Psychologist in the distance. I know where she was at. For her, I hit her twice because of her little stress level. She can tank Joseph hits, so I decided to just get my first presence here and then. With this spawn point, I just kind of guessed if she's here, someone else is going to be probably right down the side towards the middle, and it's usually just me guessing. But I ultimately pretty much damage everybody. Everybody gets hit in this one instant. This one big swoop, everyone gets hit. So it becomes pretty sticky really fast. So she gets caught and he's downed because he was trying to heal her. Now saving for everybody is risky. Saving for everybody is a huge risk because everyone took damage. Nobody is safe. This lets me chair 2 survivors, and they're still at 5 survivors. I don't mind that Gravekeeper is coming to save here because he just used his tide on Psychologist, so I can just freely down Patient again. This also means Gravekeeper will also go down, so that means another survivor is not decoding. This slowed down their decoding by a lot, immensely. They are not doing too hot here. She pellet stuns me here, and I got a little bit greedy. This is what I mean by being greedy. Instead of chasing him, I go back for her because she was already chaired. I probably should have waited there. She had already taken damage in chip damage form. This is another mistake that I made, is waiting too long for the pellet. Because the pellet was up in the real world, it means that she was able to pellet stun me in the real world. I keep him on the ground just because I know that their decoding isn't the greatest, so they're still at 5 servers. Just playing a little bit of a mind game here. And because I did that, it slowed her down enough that she couldn't reach the pallet. Usually I would have used my card trick, but because I knew she was the kind of player that wanted to get that juicy pallet stun, I didn't let her get that satisfaction and just chased her normally. So as I explained before, it's best if you understand and learn different spawn points for survivors, because it will definitely help your early game. It will help your early game immensely. Though, I should preface that when you are playing Joseph and you have a survivor who understands the way healing works against Joseph, you should always try and prioritize those players because they could be detrimental to your win later on. There are some survivors who understand that if you deal damage within the camera world and you just leave their image behind and don't come back for it, they can heal themselves inside of camera world. So we have an antiquarian. She spawned by working carousel, and I find her here because I know that a survivor is supposed to spawn nearby. She instantly moves away because she's expecting me to jump out of camera world, which I don't. I'm looking for another survivor to hit. But this also means hands are not on a cipher. 2 survivors are decoding right now, but a 3rd one is not. And neither is actually, no, I just lied. Little girl also was not working on a cipher, so that means there isn't a lot of decoding being done. But she understood that she needs to heal herself because I did damage to her there. I didn't realize that she healed herself. But because she did that, she won't be taking the 1-hit shot that I am aiming for as Joseph. Let's talk about his traits, actually. Let's talk about traits. So when you're using Joseph, a lot of the time a Joseph will use Blink. Some Josephs will use Peeper. I personally like to use Blink with Joseph because it will give me that sweet down that I'm looking for, especially when I play him and I'm doing the chip damage thing. It means they're not expecting to go down. Like, it's immediate. Boom. Dead. Peeper is good for, like, if you're trying to, like, let's say you don't know where a server is at and you're trying to patrol an area, boom, Peeper, you can just find them easy. But that's for, like, if you just, if you're trying to hold a cipher, or, like, you're just not confident in your abilities in keeping up a chase with Joseph because he's slow, and you want to make sure you can keep your eye on the survivor as they're running away from you. But I personally just don't like peeper on Joseph. It just feels cluttery, like doesn't feel as smooth as it usually is. So I try to my games are quick, snappy. I'm getting the job done immediately. Like I'm here, I'm there, I'm over there, like you don't know where I'm coming from sort of gameplay. Sometimes I try to play aggressive, but sometimes I also think playing slowly and more articulately helps my win, even if it takes longer. So yeah, it all comes down to the kind of hunter that you are and what you know you can handle. So make sure you're playing the way that you think is comfortable, because once you start trying to be some sweaty Joseph, like I'm here, I'm there, I'm teleporting over here, I knocked you down over there, but I'm not gonna pick you up, I'm gonna slug you over there, then you start to lose your rhythm, and it just you'll lose the match eventually. You'll lose your momentum. Yeah, that's how I play Joseph. If you have a question, tell me. If you don't understand something, tell me. I don't know if I'm gonna post this, I'm gonna be real, because I'm kind of all over the place. But yeah, that's how I play Joseph. Okay, bye.